So like how many homes did you sell like your first year?
I'm 79.
All right, this is the most insane interview yet. In this interview, I talked to Gail Smith, who sold 79 homes in her first year, which was a down year. And by the way, she did not buy any leads. She did it all old school. And by the way, she is a grandma and had just turned 59 years old when she got into real estate. It is a crazy story. And if you want to partner with me here at Place or at EXP and get all my free YouTube and Instagram courses and some free coaching and training, let me know, but I hope you enjoy this interview. I got my friend Gail, or as you're infamously known as Grandma Gail, which I think you've been known that for like forever, even though, and my buddy Bob, one of my best friends' moms here, who's like a killer agent. Gail, like anytime I go to something at like Place or Ben or Kenny or anyone, they mention your name like out of nowhere. And so like, when did you get into like real estate? Like how long ago was it?
I actually got officially licensed in July of 2016.
Okay.
And I started with Ben's team officially August of 2016.
And so what made you get into real estate?
Because I was getting kind of bored sitting at home. My husband actually hadn't retired yet. And he was a commercial fisherman and had gone up fishing with him a few years in the summer, but then he switched where he fished, which was from Prince William Sounds, which is a really cool place to go. It's like a paid vacation. And he went back out to the coast up, pretty much on the ocean. I'm like, I'm not going out there.
Right.
So I was pretty much doing nothing. And Bob had mentioned to me, you should get your real estate license. I think you'd be really good at it. So I kind of started let me take a look
started your inkling. So you get into it. And I just kind of, one thing I remember about your story is like, you didn't live near Ben's team, right? Like you were a couple hours away or something.
Yeah, 150 some miles. It's 3 hour if you hit the traffic right. If you don't hit the traffic right, it's 4 hour commute one way.
Wow. Okay. Gotcha. So like I know so like how many homes did you sell like your first year?
79.
79. All right. All right. So before I get started, because I know people are going to ask me this, like you didn't get some like big referral account. Your parents weren't like real estate gurus that sold a bunch of investment properties. All right. All right. Good. You didn't. All right. Cool. So amazing. So I love it. So what the heck and how the heck did you do that? Like tell me from the beginning, like, let's just say day one, you get your license and you're like in the office, like what happened?
Well, day one, I get my license. When I first started, I went up to Bellingham and I raised my boys up there.
Right.
So I have two sons that still live in that area. So I stayed up there with a friend for the first couple weeks and went into the office, every day and did what they told me to do, which the very first day that I was there, they slapped some headphones on me.
Threw you in like a dialer or something?
Handed me the phone and threw up, in Mojo, all these names and said, start dialing. You got to dial 150 calls and put this script in front of me.
Yeah. You're like, thank you for the help.
Terrifying.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
So I did that. So I kind of hung with Ben for about a couple weeks. And then I was like, yeah, I'm going to go back home. So I went back and then I commuted up there 2 to 3 days a week. So I would get up like at 4 in the morning. Well, I'd leave at 4 because if I left later than that, it would take me way too long to get up there. So I'd leave around 4 in the morning and I'd get up there about 7. And I would shadow. At the time, Ben had a agent that kind of was inside sales. He did a lot of
like a hybrid type thing.
Right. Yeah. And he was the master of canceled and expireds.
Wow. Yeah.
So I shadowed and he would start at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, don't people get pissed? And he's like, well, it's basically the first one calls normally gets the business. So he's like, I don't really care. I just call anyway.
Right.
So I shadowed him for quite a while. And then I shadowed Carrie, who now works for Brivity.
Gotcha. Okay.
She's a master on the phone.
Right.
So I would do that back and forth. So I basically would be up there but here's the deal, Chris. My very first month in business, my first couple years in business, I followed their model to the T.
Right. Like you didn't try to reinvent the wheel or buy leads or anything like that.
No, I knew nothing about the business.
Yeah.
I came out of corporate America.
Right.
I didn't come out of sales. And I hated doing phone calls, but I still went ahead and followed their model. Their model was 2 open houses a week, 150 dials. At that time, we were using Mojo, a 3-line dialer.
Right.
And calling your sphere. I didn't call my sphere. I could tell you a story about that later, but if I had done my sphere, I probably would have I know I would have closed 85 that year.
Right.
I didn't do my sphere. I had this thing about my sphere. I don't know why. Stupid.
Yeah, honestly, that's a big battle I have with new agents, 100%. Real quick though, were you looking to sell homes in Bellingham or like back at your house area?
Oh, at my house.
Okay, gotcha. So you were like, okay, cool. So you were just driving 3 hours to learn, basically.
Yes.
100%.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. And then I didn't have an office, so I used my home office, and I was very diligent about shutting myself in my office and doing what I was supposed to do in the mornings. Right. And then going out and doing my 100 previews. They have a whole big
thing. Because like when you join, you got to do 100 previews. Yep.
Right. So I went through all that. So the very first month that I was in business, I lucked out somehow, and I got one person under contract. But it was at the end of that first month that I realized that I remember that they told me that if you do these activities, you'll get this much business out of it. And it was kind of the minimum amount of business that you would get. You
right. Like, do you remember what those numbers were? Like,
1 to 2 closings. If you do the 150 dials and the 2 open houses a week, you'll get 1 to 2 closings from your side. It's the same as we teach now.
Right. Yeah.
And then you open up the opportunity for the stuff that the team gives you, like referrals and things like that.
So they didn't even like turn the spigot on for you. Like they made you work for it.
Oh yeah. No. I had to work for it. Yeah. So I did just the bare minimum that first month.
Okay.
September 1st, I just thought in my head, wow, if I keep doing the bare minimum, I'm just going to get bare minimum results. So
like going to the gym for 10 minutes and then,
Exactly. So I just strategically thought to myself, I'm going to up my game. So basically from September on, I started doing anywhere between 300 to 450 dials a day average.
Wow.
And I started doing 4 open houses every single week. So I was doing 16 to 20 open houses a month.
Right.
And I did that consistently for the first almost 2 years that I was in business.
That's crazy. So you literally, like, when you were calling, like, say 300 to 500 people, was that like expired, like neighborhoods? What were you calling?
Well, so that's interesting. So in the beginning, I was just circle prospecting.
Gotcha, which is tough. Yeah.
Right. But then in October, I don't know what made me think about it, but in October I started, and I had been training on this canceled and expired things quite a bit.
Right.
Because I was still kind of going up to Bellingham. It went from 3 days a week to 2 days a week. And then I tried to get up there at least 1 day a week or whatever. So I was still training under this guru, I call him, of canceled and expireds.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me that, wow, you know what? So this was 2016, right? Well, 2008, 2009 was when the craziness happened in the market with
the market crash.
With the market crash, right? So I called up our guy up in Bellingham that used to put the list in Mojo for us. They didn't let me do it. I don't know why. I didn't know how and whatever.
Probably, yeah.
I said to him, can you get me lists of canceled and expireds from back in 2008 and 2009 in my county, in the 2 counties, actually? And he goes, yeah, what do you want those for? And I said, I'm just going to call him to see if anybody still owns the house. So he calls me back and he said, there's something like over 6,000 of them.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And I said, well, he said, we can only load 500 at a time.
Right.
Okay, cool. So load me lists with 500.
Right.
So he loaded me lists with 500, and I switched then and started basically calling through those lists. I eventually called through those entire lists.
Wow.
So
you would call, and then was it like a lot of I'm ready to sell now? Or was it a lot like you had to nurture the people?
No. So, you luck out once in a while.
Right.
With those dials, the first thing was, do you still even own the home?
Right.
Some people had sold them, but there was a lot of people that still owned those homes.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
And it was weird. So then I would just have the conversation with them, about the market. The market was starting to 2016 when the market wasn't.
Yeah, I was going to say 2000. Yeah, I've been in the business for 20 years. That was kind of just like a normal time. I think we probably had like 6 to 8 months of inventory in my market then.
Yeah, we did too. Our average days on market was way over 60, like something like 90 days.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like this really crazy market. And I just started consistently adding those people to my database and just working those people. But my real fast, instant business that really jump started my business. I'll talk about those cancel and expires a little bit further down. But what really jump started my business to start with was my open houses.
Wow. Okay. Like one question I have is like, if you were going to hold an open house, was it your listing or like another agent in your office?
Well, it wasn't another agent in my office because my office was in Bellytown.
Oh yeah, it was 3 hours away. Right.
Yeah. And in the beginning, I didn't have any listings.
Right.
So I had to find listings from other
agents.
Companies. And to be honest,
yeah,
there was 2 Keller Williams offices not too far from me, but I couldn't get them to help me. So I just started researching kind of the top listing agents in my market. And I found like 3 or 4 listing agents that had a lot of listings, but wanted help with open houses. And I just kind of connected up with them and did their open houses.
That's
until
awesome.
I started getting my own.
Yeah, that's great. So you didn't like wait for a listing and to hold it. Like you went out and found them. So like you would hold, like what time of day, like when were you holding these?
Well, this is stupid because I didn't know that you only held open houses for 2 to 3 hours. They forgot to tell me that. And
so you're like moving in. Yeah.
When I was younger, open houses were always 4 hours.
Right.
So I did 4-hour open houses with an hour in between.
Wow,
people
that's
say,
awesome.
Do the same house? And I'm like, nope, always different houses. But I just strategically do them where there was only like twice that I was late to the second one because people kept me at the first one.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, Chris, over half of them, nobody showed up.
Wow. So yeah, it's good information because like I know we had an agent that left my team and like he got out of the business and he was doing open houses, adding them to Brivity. And then like a dummy, we never called him. And then like 6 months later, we started calling him and a bunch of the people bought houses. And I was like, man, he would have made a couple $100,000 if he would have stuck around, you know? Yeah. So like how the people didn't show. So if someone walked in and was like, hey, I'm just looking, you were good about like using Ben's scripts and getting them like, Yeah, I
use Ben's, people come to open houses for 1 or 2 reasons. They're either looking to buy or they're curious about what their own value is. I got quite a few seller leads off my open houses.
Wow.
So if it was nice out or if it was like in the summertime, especially or whatever, and if I didn't have anybody there, I'd go in the front yard and try to engage the neighbors.
Yeah, you were like really going after it. So like, when did you start to kind of like now it's like a month has gone by, you're starting to do these open houses. Like when did things start to take off for you?
It took off like a jet
rocket
plane,
ship.
Basically November, December. So I started in August. By December, I had closed 7 houses. Right. So not too bad.
That's not too bad at all. No,
not earth shattering. Now I'm going into my first full year in real estate, but here's the deal. In January of 2017, I went into January with 12 pendings.
Wow.
Yeah.
And like a crappy time of the year and not a great market. Yeah.
But you know what? Everybody told me that the winter was crappy. And so I just decided that I wasn't going to listen to them and I was still going to work and do whatever I could.
Right.
I kind of discovered that the winter's kind of crappy because agents just don't want to work during November and December.
Yeah, 100%. That's like summer here. All the agents leave and there's nothing going on. And I'm like, they're all on vacation or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that I don't believe that there's ever a truly crappy market.
Right. There's people that have to move.
We're in a tough market. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm not naive enough to think that it's not a tough market. You just have to work harder.
Yeah. So you were making like 300 to 500 dials a day, and then you were doing the open houses for a week, and then you were kind of like double stacking them a little bit. So next thing you know, you're getting like 7-8 deals pending. That's got to be like, was that tough to manage, or did you have like a transaction person helping you, anything like that?
Well, I had the hub, but the problem with that, and this is where Ben kind of stepped in for me,
Right.
because the hub was almost too far away.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I was doing all my own. And so it was in the spring of that year that Ben said to me, I had lunch with him and he said, how you doing? And by that time, it looked like I was going to be on track to close over 50.
Right. Which is
And
phenomenal.
By the summer, I carried about 18 listings consistently through the whole summer. So he said to me, I think we need to get you some help. And so he hired me my own VA.
Well, okay, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, which actually was with me clear up until just a couple years ago. And then she had her third baby and decided that she wanted to concentrate on her kids and whatever else. Yeah. So I had the same VA for quite a while.
So so then that's crazy. So I guess a big question I'd have, because I think this is where a lot of business gets lost, especially for me too. Like, how are you able to get all those people, but then still follow up with all of them? Because obviously most people don't walk in an open house and say, I want to buy this. Like, you would say, all right, let me follow up with you. And then you'd put them in a Brevity CRM.
Well, your CRM is everything. I learned that right from the very beginning. In fact, I told Bob, I think it was in September or October of that first year, I told Bob, I said, boy, I can tell right now that this CRM is either going to be the best tool in my toolbox or the biggest nightmare.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Because I realized that if you didn't keep things organized and keep up on it and keep, things in follow up on the things that you say you're going to follow up on all that, all of a sudden it just becomes this mess.
Right.
And so instead of being something that's helping you, it's something that's hindering you.
Right.
And our CRM now is, like light years easier
compared to where they were. Yeah, exactly.
Where they were even then. Yeah. And I mean, and we had, at least I had a CRM. I know a lot of you guys that started, 20 years ago plus, you just had, a spreadsheet.
Yeah, exactly. Or a piece of paper. Yeah, a spreadsheet. Yeah, it's crazy. So
our agent had a spreadsheet.
Yeah. I'd call Bob and tell him to get it out of his phone for me, and have him in there. But so you basically, so you're doing the open houses, you call it, and then you said you were also calling. So then you said you started calling that 6,000 list of expireds.
Yeah, that 6,000 list of expireds, I called from about September to about January or February of that next year. Right. That's basically where the majority of those listings came from.
Gotcha.
That's why I was saying that, you asked me, they take time,
Right.
So, and some of those listings also were referrals.
Right.
That's the good thing about being part of the network, that
100%.
Is referrals. I mean, I think my first year, if I broke down my sources, canceled expireds and open houses were 1 and 2, and my third one was agent referrals. Well, as a new agent in a market that I had never been in,
right.
If it hadn't been for Ben and the Ben Kinney organization at that time, prior to place, I wouldn't have had those referrals. Let's be honest.
Right. Yeah. 100%. You had a good, and even then Ben, I'm sure wouldn't mind, because I've known Ben for a long time, but they weren't that organized like they are now either, back in 2015, 2016, when he first started.
Nowhere near like we are now.
Yeah.
But we didn't have that many, when I first joined, before I became a partner with him, when I actually first joined, Adelina had come on. I came in 2016. I believe Adelina joined him, which was his first non-Washington expansion team, had come on in the previous fall.
Okay, and so it was you were right at the beginning.
Right, so I was right at the beginning. So the summer I joined was when I think Kelly,
Spencer,
Kelly, Michelle, and I forget, Elizabeth.
Yep, out of Napa Valley.
And then later Jake came on. So when I actually started my partnership with him, which was in 2018, there wasn't that many teams. There was only 6 or 7 or 8 teams, other than his Washington teams. Yeah,
and it was still. I remember this was when it was kind of an early concept, and there was everybody and their brother was trying this expansion thing. So you end up selling 70-some homes your first year, and so it sounds like it's old expireds, open houses. just working, the leads, lead flow that you're getting, like probably the sign calls, everything. So it doesn't sound like anything magical showed up, right? Like
No.
you weren't buying Zillow leads or anything.
No, in fact, I don't think one single lead or one single deal of those. I'd have to go back and look at my breakdown.
That's crazy.
I don't think any of them were paid leads, Chris.
Yeah, that's crazy. Do you think like and now you like run a big team and you're on vacation, which is great. Like, and I appreciate you doing this. Like, did you kind of just say, hey, you know what, I want to slow down a bit, like this, because obviously that's a lot of work, and I want to do my own team. Like, what kind of made you transition?
Well, first off, you don't slow down when you do a team.
Yes, 100%. I know, right?
Yeah, that's
you don't become a millionaire overnight like everybody thinks, right? Yeah.
No, when I first had joined Ben, he had given me this layout that if you do this, I will partner with you.
Right.
And, it wasn't like, here, I'm going to give it to you. It says, if you accomplish this, I'll do this. And so we partnered together and then I started what is now known as the Ben Kinney Team South Sound.
Nice.
And so we're basically kind of south of Seattle. So we butt up to our Seattle partners, and then we also butt up to Jacqueline.
Right.
On the south
Vancouver,
end.
Washington.
We have other place partners now within our ecosystem.
Yeah, fact, exactly.
Jason Munez is in my office.
Right.
And our teams actually share a bullpen.
Yeah. I have a couple of my marketplace place partners. Yeah. And so then you did that, and then I guess one like kind of like final thing I asked you is like, what do you think like someone could do this now? Like, I know a lot of people will say, well, she was able to do that, but this is a different time. Do you think someone could replicate what you did?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for somebody to.
Yeah. 100%. I definitely think they could too.
Yeah. I didn't do anything magical, Chris. All I did was follow what they told me to do.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about this business. I was 59 years old. I turned 60 before 2017. I turned 60 3 months after I joined. I'm not special.
Yeah. Right. Well, yeah, of course we know you're not special. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. But my point is I all I did was follow the model, but then I took the model and I just said, look, I'm going to put this thing on super drive.
Right. Yeah. 100%. But like, you didn't reinvent anything like you did. That's the thing with Ben too. I think a lot of people think he's got something like, and Ben's obviously a smart guy. I think a lot of people think I got these secret leads or something. He's not like that. It's like, you got to do what works, and we know it works, and it's a system. And if you follow it, it's going to work. And that's what you did. Yeah, absolutely. So. Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, because I remember when you did that and like talking, and then every time he would bring you up or something, and then an agent would say, well, I can't do it. And then you started to become like the Michael Jordan of agents that we all had to like live up to. Thanks for setting that. And and then people would be like, yeah, and so, they'd bring you up, and I would be like, man, and I've always wanted to talk to you through it. And it's funny because I just talked to Katie Cincinnati like last week, who does like 50 deals a year on Ben's team. And he was like, yeah, I just show up and make 100 calls a day and follow up with everybody. And I'm like, and you don't do anything else? He's like, no, I was a bartender in my first 2 years. Yeah. And I'm like, I think a lot of people get lost. I think one thing that you probably did well, which you're not giving yourself credit, I think when you got the people from the open houses or the expired, like the follow up had to be really good, I would imagine. Yeah. Right? No, you've got to follow up. Otherwise it's not going to happen. Right. The thing of it is all the details are in the follow-up. Right. Exactly. The whole idea of the circle prospecting and the whole idea of the open houses and everything is to build your database. Once in a while you get lucky and somebody walks in and says, hey, write it up. Right. But those are few and far between. Exactly. It's all about building rapport, relationships, and follow-up. Yeah. That's the things it's all about. Katie and I are on a panel together on the 29th. Yep. I saw that. Yeah. You guys are on a panel together. Yeah. Yeah. And I think like your son told me, who's like probably one of the best people at like real estate databases. And he told me like, it's like 10, he thinks it's like 10 follow-up calls to get like someone eventually on an appointment or something was 11. What his numbers. It's 11 before 11, they answer. Yeah. Before they answer. Till they answer. Wow. Yeah. So 11 to get them to even answer. Okay. Yeah. There you go. And those people try like 1 or 2 times and they're done and they move on. Yeah.
we see it in our databases. I'm sure you do when you go back through, when you have an agent that leaves, it forces you to go back in and say, okay, let's take a look at these leads and what are we going to do with these people, and not make sure they don't fall to some hidden funnel that they just disappear.
Right.
And you can see in there, you see the activity and you go, oh, and it's heartbreaking when you get on the phone, you call them and oh yeah, I just bought.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for calling. I love my new house. You're like, what?
Yeah. And you're like,
and when that happens, you always you feel bad. And then you're like, man, this person who left, who was flustered, if they would have just followed the system and listened to us, they would have flourished, and not been frustrated. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not an easy business.
It's not,
yeah. It's a lot of work, but it's very gratifying though.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what, with talking with Katie, her big thing was, and I'm sure you too, she was like, I love just seeing the clients be happy and all that, and so, yeah, definitely. Well, I really appreciate your time. You've been amazing. This is really good information. I like stories like this because it's like you said, anyone could do it. It's just they got to put the work in, right?
Right. Yeah. It's all about the work. It's all about the work and the mindset and the attitude.
And look, she's out in Hawaii now for 3 weeks. What is this?
I have my bathing suit under here.
Yeah, and if we ever have referrals for you, you are, what's the town name you're in?
We're in basically Tacoma and Olympia is our main. So south of Seattle, Tacoma, Olympia, and then we go out to the ocean and we go up the Hood Canal.
That's awesome. Yeah, so if anybody knows anybody, definitely hit her up. I'll put your information in the bottom. I appreciate your time.
Yep. Thank you, Chris.
All right, thank you.